Imagine a ship abandoned in a frozen sea, yet it keeps appearing for decades, not sinking, not returning to port, just drifting. What kind of maritime mystery could keep a vessel like the SS Baychimo alive for so long, turning it into the Arctic's most enduring ghost ship legend? Prepare to dive into a chilling story that defies explanation. It was October 29th, 1931. The Arctic horizon glowed with a pale light that never quite became day. The air was sharp, the wind thin, and ice was already creeping across the sea earlier than expected that year. The SS Baychimo, a cargo ship belonging to the Hudson's Bay Company, was finishing her final trading voyage of the season. She had spent months collecting and delivering furs, supplies, and goods between remote northern outposts along the Canadian coast. Her captain, Cornwell, had made the run dozens of times before. But this voyage would not end like the others. The Baychimo was a solid steel ship, about 230 feet long, built to handle Arctic waters, but not the kind of early freeze that struck in late October of 1931. By the time she reached the coast near Barrow, Alaska, sheets of ice began to close around her hull. The engine strained, the ship shuddered, and within hours she was trapped, frozen into the sea. The crew worked tirelessly to free her. They hacked away at the ice, burned coal to keep her boilers hot, and prayed for a change in the wind. But the Arctic was merciless. The ice only thickened, locking the Baychimo in an icy prison. As days passed, the weather worsened. Blizzards tore across the coast, and temperatures plunged far below zero. The Hudson's Bay Company, fearing for the crew's safety, ordered an evacuation. The men took to sleds and trekked miles across the frozen wasteland to the small settlement of Barrow. It was a desperate retreat. Behind them, the Baychimo was left silent and still, half buried in snowdrifts and ice. Many assumed she wouldn't last the winter, but the Arctic had other plans. 2 weeks later, when a few men returned to retrieve the ship's valuable cargo, they were stunned. The Baychimo was gone. They searched the frozen coastline, believing she had sunk beneath the ice. Then, about 45 miles away, an Inuit hunter spotted a dark shape on the horizon, tall mass rising out of the mist. It was the Baychimo. Somehow, impossibly, she had broken free from the ice and drifted away, still afloat. When the men caught up to her, she was in rough shape, her hull groaning, her decks covered in frost. They salvaged what they could, furs, tools, and personal belongings, and then abandoned her for good, certain she would soon sink. But she didn't. She kept drifting, and that was only the beginning of her legend. In the spring of 1932, a group of Inuit hunters came across the ship again, frozen into a new patch of ice near the Alaskan coast. They boarded her, expecting to find a wreck. Instead, they found her eerily preserved. Inside, everything looked as if the crew had just stepped away. Mugs sat on tables, papers lay scattered on the captain's desk, and even some cargo remained neatly stacked. But there were no people, no footprints, only silence and the cold groan of metal under strain. The hunters took supplies and left her there. They assumed the next storm would destroy her. Yet when they returned months later, the ship had vanished again. Over the next decade, the SS Baychimo became the Arctic's greatest mystery. She was sighted again and again by explorers, trappers, and Inuit hunters. Each encounter added to her ghostly reputation. In 1933, a group of Alaskan trappers boarded her when she drifted near the coast. They camped on the ship for several days, planning to wait out a storm. But as the winds grew fierce, The ice beneath her began to crack and shift. Fearing she'd be crushed, the men fled to safety. When they returned the next day, the Baychimo was gone, vanished overnight into a wall of white. By 1935, sightings of the ghost ship had spread across northern Canada. Hunters described seeing her mast appear out of the fog, only for her to disappear again moments later. An entire expedition set out to find and tow her back, but every attempt failed. In 1939, a group of traders claimed they'd seen her trapped in pack ice, but still intact, her deck coated with snow, her hull gleaming faintly under the Arctic sun. They couldn't reach her. The ice was too thick, and once again, when they returned weeks later, she was gone. Each encounter followed the same eerie pattern. The Baychimo would appear unexpectedly, linger just long enough to be seen or boarded, and then vanish again, swallowed by fog or storm. By the 1940s, the Baychimo's legend had become famous across the Arctic. She was called the Phantom of the Ice, a ship that refused to sink. Local Inuit communities spoke of her as if she were alive, an iron spirit that drifted endlessly between the frozen tides. There were even tales of strange lights, glowing faintly from her deck on dark winter nights. No electricity left, no crew to tend her, just a dim flicker that vanished when anyone approached. Some said it was moonlight reflecting on the ice. Others whispered it was the souls of the men who had left her behind. The Hudson's Bay Company stopped trying to recover her. It was too dangerous, too costly, and perhaps too unsettling. But the sightings continued. In 1954, an Arctic pilot claimed to have seen a ship that matched her description drifting off the coast of Alaska. In 1962, 31 years after her abandonment, the Baychimo was seen once again by Inuit hunters. She was listing slightly to one side, her hull rusted, her masts worn, but she was still afloat. Astonishingly, she had survived more than 3 decades alone in one of the harshest environments on Earth. And then, she vanished for good. No verified sighting has ever been made since. Some say she finally succumbed to the ice, crushed and swallowed by the cold waters she had defied for so long. Others believe she's still out there, drifting beneath the Arctic fog, locked in ice, and waiting for the next thaw to set her free again. Even in the 2000s, expeditions have tried to locate her using sonar and satellite scans. Wrecks have been found, but none match the Baychimo's shape or location. It's as if she slipped not just from the sea, but from history itself. What makes the story of the ghost ship Baychimo so haunting isn't just her endurance, it's her defiance. She survived storms that shattered stronger ships. She floated through decades of winters and thaws, appearing and vanishing like a living phantom. There's something timeless about her, the idea of a machine built by man, abandoned and forgotten, yet continuing its lonely voyage through the frozen world. Some see her as a symbol of resilience. Others call her cursed. But no matter how you interpret her story, the Baychimo remains one of the most extraordinary mysteries in maritime history. If you stood now on the edge of the Arctic, the wind biting your face, the sea stretching white to the horizon, you might almost hear it. A distant creak of steel, a groan beneath the ice, a shadow moving where no ship should be. Look long enough into that endless white, and perhaps you'd see her too. A silent vessel adrift in eternal twilight. The SS Baychimo, the ship that refused to die. Still wandering the frozen sea, still keeping her secrets, and still whispering through the Arctic wind. Not all ghosts are made of flesh and bone.